Do you ever feel like you're working so hard to heal, but the harder you try, the more you feel stuck? Maybe you're doing all the right things, practicing, journaling, meditating, learning, but something inside you still feels frantic or defeated, like you're not doing enough or you're not doing it right. If that feels familiar, you may be caught in a loop between two powerful protector parts, the fixer and the inner critic. I'm Rebecca Tolin, a mind body coach and the creator of the Be Your Own Medicine program. Today, I'll show you how the fixer and the inner critic can unknowingly keep us stuck in chronic symptoms and how to soften their grip through compassion, somatic awareness, and curiosity. Okay, first, the fixer, the overachiever of healing. The fixer shows up with a clipboard and a plan. It says, let's solve this. Let's track every symptom. Let's research this more and more. We've got to heal by X date. Time's wasting. Any of this sound familiar? It certainly was very familiar to me during my 13 years with ME/CFS. Now, the fixer gets activated when we finally understand, hey, these symptoms are neuroplastic. My brain and body are stuck in protection mode. So now let's calm down the brain and just get rid of them. So it's a good first step to learn this mind-body approach and understand the cause and the cure of neuroplastic symptoms. But the fixer can really grasp onto that and try to force a quick fix, which unfortunately is not the nature of how we heal from mind-body conditions like CFS and long COVID. This simply activates our brain's danger alarm signal even more, and that desperation communicates to our primitive brain something is really wrong with us. What if healing is fostered through friendship rather than fixed through force? I invite you to consider that question, and we'll explore this a little bit more through the lens of internal family systems. So in IFS, the fixer is a protector, right? It's considered a manager part. It wants to prevent harm before it happens. It's trying to protect you from pain, failure, or any other perceived threat. It desperately wants to control life. When the fixer takes the lead, healing starts to feel like a full-time job, right? It feeds on this fear that if I don't fix this very soon, something bad will happen, right? We have this sense of urgency. I completely get it. I felt so frantic for so many years to heal. And unfortunately, that never got me anywhere until I finally surrendered to the present moment, accepted myself as I am, and really embraced this mind-body approach. Because the truth is that fear keeps your brain and body on high alert, which is the same state that fuels chronic neuroplastic symptoms like CFS, long COVID, brain fog, insomnia, anxiety, and chronic pain. When the fixer takes over, it obsesses about symptoms or any other life challenge for that matter, and it pushes us to do more right now. Right? The fixer is up late scrolling socials for solutions, and it's consulting Dr. Google or ChatGPT. Now, this is not happening because you're flawed or you've done anything wrong. It's happening simply because a part of you is afraid and in need of care. Okay, let's move on to the inner critic, the fixer's sharper sibling. Now, the inner critic is the voice that says, you're doing it wrong. You should be better by now. This is your fault. Something's wrong with you. And just even notice how that feels in your body as I say those words, right? Because it feels harsh to me. And yet I know that I used to say those things to myself, even if it was subconscious. And I really want to invite you to notice what your inner dialogue is. Where the fixer tries to solve, the critic blames. Now, it may sound harsh, but actually both of these parts are trying to help us. The critic often arises from early life patterns, times where we felt we had to be perfect or please others or uber productive just to stay safe or loved. The underlying logic is that if I beat you to the punch, no one else can hurt you, right? So I'll just hurt you more. It doesn't make rational sense, but it makes emotional sense as a protective strategy. But the issue is that constant judgment can activate the danger signal in the brain, which keeps us in the state of chronic flight, fight, or freeze. Now, this is not a weakness in any way. It's a perfectly natural protective response that's often been running the show for a long time. Okay, let's go to the science behind this loop. The fixer and the critic can trigger the sympathetic nervous system, our flight or fight response, and also they can rear up when we are in that sympathetic activation. It's kind of a feedback. So even if we're lying in bed doing nothing, this internal pressure tells our brain, I'm not safe. And that message travels through our default mode network, a brain circuit that's literally wired for self-evaluation and problem solving. When it's overactivated, that leads to hypervigilance, rumination, and catastrophizing. And it's like that thing that can happen in the middle of the night or anytime at all, where it feels like our brain has taken over and it's guiding us and we just feel powerless to it, but we aren't. But I want to explain the loop that this creates. So we feel fear, right? And the fear or the anxiety is often so uncomfortable in our body. Subconsciously, instead, we move into this strategy of fixing or criticizing. It could be either one. You're trying to fix the problem or you're criticizing yourself for not being better yet. Now, that triggers the danger alarm in the brain and we get more symptoms. And more symptoms triggers more fear. More fear leads to more of those coping strategies like fixing and criticizing, which again leads to more symptoms and more fear. So to break this loop, we usually don't need another strategy per se. We need a new relationship with these parts. Let's talk about a practice, meeting the fixer and critic with compassion. So we can try this now, just briefly. Wherever you are, pause and take a deep breath, right? Just maybe breathe deeply into your belly and deeply out of your belly. Just pausing and coming into your somatic experience. And from this place, notice if the fixer or the critic is active right now, or maybe if it's been active in you lately. And what is this part saying to you? Does it want you to do this or believe that? And now ask yourself gently, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't do this job? So you're asking either your fixer or your critic, what are you afraid of? And just listen. And if you need more time, you can pause this video, but just see what this strategizing part of you is afraid of if it didn't do its job of fixing or criticizing. And now, if it feels right to you, I invite you to place a hand on your heart or wherever you feel these parts most. It could be your belly or your pelvis, and say, thank you for trying to help me. I see how hard you've been working, and you don't have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. I'm right here with you. And notice if anything inside you softens. It might or might not. Either way is okay, right? These parts of us are used to running the show, but your gentle presence will slowly rewrite this pattern, right? Now, another practice is to reassign the job and redefine support. Sometimes these parts simply need a break because the truth is they're usually exhausted from working overtime, right? They're like a guard dog that's barking at every person or animal that walks by the house just trying to protect you. But really, they just want to relax in the sun, right? They just want to be loved and pet. So you can say to your fixer, I know you want to help, but I've got support right now. I'm learning to trust my nervous system and I don't need to fix it right now. So you're actually bringing in mindfulness, compassion, and presence, and now creating a buffer between you and the fixer. And you're holding it in your awareness. Similarly, with the critic, if the critic voice is really active in you, you could say, Inner critic, I know you're scared that I'll mess up or that I'm not enough to begin with, but I'm learning to treat myself with kindness, not control. This is what brings me safety. So find the words that work for you, but really activate this prefrontal cortex and the presence inside of you, which can hold these parts that are desperately trying to help you, but are actually revving things up. Now, here's something else that's important. Supporting yourself is not the same as fixing or criticizing yourself. Because sometimes we think, oh, well, if I give up on the fixing or criticizing, I'm never going to get anywhere. But that's not actually the case. Here's the difference in these voices. So the fixing voice says, something is wrong with me, right? Something's wrong with me. I'm broken, so it's got to be fixed. The criticizing voice says, I'm not enough. Something in me is deficient, right? But supporting yourself says, I'm here with you. Let's take the next kind step together. Can you feel the difference? Just see what that would feel like for yourself to say, I'm here with you. We're going to do this together. Supporting ourselves can look like lots of different things. It could be practicing long, slow belly breaths. It could be gently exploring a symptom or sensation or emotion with curiosity, just like we do in somatic tracking. It can be as simple as anything you enjoy that's accessible to you, like sitting in a garden, walking in nature, or taking a bath, right? That can be forms of self-support. It's really the attitude that you bring to it that's important more than the activity itself. Self-support can also mean encouraging yourself to take a small risk, to challenge yourself with compassion rather than criticism. Because through graded exposure, returning to activities, we retrain our brain that those activities are safe. But we want to do it with compassion, ease, grace, and even with enjoyment, because that gives a totally different signal to our brain. And it just makes things a lot more enjoyable. This is a sustainable recovery strategy and just really a more meaningful way to live, in my experience. It creates safety, which is when our brain can rewire itself into healthier patterns. You might also visualize giving your fixer and your critic new roles. So, depending on which one is more active for you, you can let the fixer become a curious explorer, right? You can let your critic become a discerning guide that speaks to you when it's invited. These parts don't have to disappear. That's unrealistic because they're really here to protect you, but they do need to be held in your loving presence. Okay, so some closing reflections are, I see so many people who are trying so hard to heal. And sometimes that striving itself becomes the obstacle to recovery. And I know because I was there for so many years and I wasn't making progress until I really shifted my entire approach. When we soften the urge to fix and we release the need to be perfect, our nervous system starts to relax, right? We shift from force to flow because we just can't force recovery to happen. We can create the right conditions for recovery to happen. We practice a different way of being with ourself, one that's gentle, steady, and compassionate. Healing doesn't come from pressure, it comes from presence. If this video resonated with you, please subscribe, leave me a comment. I read all of them. You can also try a free somatic meditation at RebeccaTolin.com. Now, if you want more support with your recovery from neuroplastic conditions like chronic fatigue, persistent pain, POTS, or IBS, I walk you through all the knowledge and practices in my Be Your Own Medicine course. I would truly love to support you. Know that your fixer can rest and your critic can soften, and you can start to feel safe in your own skin again. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you being here. And remember that you are not a project to be perfected. You are a person to be loved. Take care, everyone.